Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays, looking at you over here but talking to you over here. It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? But that's the wonders of technology. Anyway, cutting through a weird and quite frankly, I guess weird intros are somewhat normal for me. Anyway, we're going to be talking about some unit reviews today, specifically the new EX job batch, and Globalers, now you have even more reason to be interested in EXs because you guys have got them too. Welcome to the club. And we'll talk about, I think we kind of need to talk about a version difference at this point because poor JP players. All right, so let's talk first of all, before we actually get into these interviews, I'm just going to talk about one thing from a previous video that I noticed someone made a comment about, and I want to talk about. All right, Cowell. Now, somebody was saying, hey, on the banner, he's got the same rates as Mua, basically, and they both have upped rates. Yes, I think I didn't explain properly what my general problem with Cowell being in the summon pool is. It's not that he is going to really affect the current banners so much. I do think that he also has an up rate too. I still don't think you would prefer to see this character as opposed to Mua, who is a full-fledged character with a limit burst and a pretty strong kit overall. That being said, one of the things I'm worried about is just more in the future is the fact that Cowell is going to be in the, he's just going to be in the gacha rates, and it's just going to decrease the chances and make everything more spread out and everything, and you know, I just don't think he deserves to be there. Or if he does, give him a limit burst. I'm not saying an animation. I'm just saying I think they did this guy dirty in that respect. What I will say is now that his data is up on Wotv, shout out to Wotv, I did take a look at both him and Niv, since they are both snipers, because I wanted to see how they compared to one another in terms of stats and everything. And Cowell does have some pretty nice stats for being essentially, you know, getting the first copy of him free and not having a limit burst. I actually kind of think his stats are a little bit compensated for it. Now, I want to see what Niv EX looks like before going too far, but overall, I think I'm more impressed with Cowell, but damn, do I want him to have a limit burst. That would actually, he's a cool looking character, man. More male characters. We need some more male characters in the game. Yeah. Alright, so that being said, now let's actually talk about the units that we're supposed to be talking about, and we're going to be talking about Meri. Now, Meri is, in all honesty, well, I've never found her to be that interesting of a unit. I'm sure there are some people who have used her, but I don't know. Monk as a class has never really struck me as that good yet. I'm still waiting for that first amazing fist user to begin the age of the punch. But until then, taking a look at her EX, not really too much to talk about here. One of her ability gets upgraded, so she gets 150% attack boost for herself for one turn, and she also gets an increase of defense and spirit by 40 for one turn. Fine, it's a fine ability in terms of giving her some defensive options while also giving her a power up, but I don't think it's that great. Her restore HP and TP for allies, 40% for HP, 32%. It's a pretty limited range on this ability. Again, it's okay, but I don't really think that it's anything that incredible for this character. And last but not least, her new ability, increased strike attack by 40 for 3 turns to allies and defense penetration by 50 for 3 turns for self. That's a big deal for any DPS to get defense penetration, and so much defense penetration as well, which some URs even haven't gotten that in their upgrades. So that's very good for her. And increasing strike is also really nice, but it just kind of points to the fact that you probably want an entire strike team, and we're just not there yet. We're not there yet. We need strike summons. We need more strike vision cards, better vision cards too. Strike is still one of the most underappreciated or under-supported types of damage. So honestly, Meri feels okay. I mean, maybe in the future she'll just be an amazing support for an entire strike-based damage team, but it's not yet, so she isn't worth spending the resources on. All right, and next we're just gonna swap over to the dark element here. Talk about this young lady. We're going to be talking about little Leela. Pretty big fan favorite. And I say that without having done any of the actual research to see if she's still a fan favorite. But she does get her 120 this time. Taking a look, one of her support gets an upgrade. So she gets the one with increased spirit, also comes with increased magic resistance 12%, light resistance 12%, spirit by 12, and silence as well, which is interesting. Overall, a fine thing. I actually think I prefer supports getting some like upgrades just because it makes them kind of more interesting, and they're just passive, so they're always there. I mean, abilities are great. You need to be able to kill your enemy, but I always really like it when an EX includes a good passive increase. Taking a look at her other two abilities, one of her ability gets an upgrade. The reduced magic damage taken by 50% goes from 3 turns to 5 turns. That's a pretty big increase for that. Also increases her spirit by 20 for 3 turns for herself, and increase spirit debuff resistance by 100 for 3 turns. That's pretty interesting. That's a really good survivability ability against magic attacks, and she still can use it 2 times, 40 TP, charge up some AP, and make herself really strong against magic attacks. I actually do like that upgrade. I think it's pretty good. And her other ability, her brand new ability, which we'll just take a peek here because this one is, I think, probably the showstopper, as it should be for the level 25. Large AoE, 121% modifier damage with 100% hit chance. This is a big AoE hit, and it has a 100% hit chance. Also decreases healing power by 50 for 3 turns for the targets, and a 25% chance to inflict silence for 3 turns for the target. So, Lil Leela just kind of a very nice little cheap anti-tank unit. Kind of feels like Mua Light, which is pretty nice. So I gotta say, I actually really, if I'm giving grades, I would say that Meri's is probably like a C. I don't think there's anything really that good there, but there's some potential there. Little Leela, I actually think is, I don't know, 100% hit ability, as well as just a chance to inflict silence too. I'd actually give Leela closer to like a B+ or A-, just because that's a pretty good ability to get. If you can't have like the strongest units, status effects are a good way to bolster some of these lower cost units. So I really do like that. That could be interesting. So Leela gets a big thumbs up. All right, and of course, definitely a fan favorite is Kitone here, who is looking to strike back with some pretty powerful upgrades to her kit. Something that we'll get to talking about right away. Her HP does get a pretty nice little boost. Basically, based on job stats, she ended up with like 937 HP, and now she's gonna, with her EX as well, she's up to 1416. So she does get a fair amount extra of HP, which, you know, a lot of people really love Drain Force, as I found out in my comments. So Drain Forcers, there is some support here. It's not completely without merit, which is nice. It's nice. All right, taking a look at her other things that she gets, this one, her support gets upgraded. So for the agility and luck is now getting a big boost. So it's still the same amount of agility and the same amount of luck, but you're also getting acquired AP plus of 50. So basically more like, you know, Gold Armor Stern, or Bling Stern as we call him, and increase single attack resistance for herself of about 12. I gotta say, I really, really like it. I think that it is a strong support ability. It's already pretty strong because agility is just, good, but that's also pretty nice too. So, good one. All right, taking a look at her other abilities. So this one, which is her increased evasion rate by 60 for 1 turn to self. Also increases missile resistance by 25% for 3 turns now, and magic resistance by 25% for 3. So really her evasion ability, this is a good way of buffing it against sure hits, because you're gonna still get hit by a sure hit ability, and both missile and magic have sure hit abilities to use against you. So just up your resistance, and 25% is not bad. I don't think it's like game breaking by any standards, but it is enough that it could make Kitone just more deadly. All right, and last but not least is her new ability, and this ability, I don't know. I don't quite know how I feel about this one yet. It's a damage ability of about 86%. It's got a really good range on it, single target. Decrease attack resistance by 30 for 3 turns. That's single attack resistance. And decrease healing power by 50 for 3 turns. So this is kind of like Kitone's running in, and she like throws her blade, and it's like dosed with a little bit of poison and weakens the enemy, and then she goes in and starts hitting them. It's good. I think it's fine. I do think its damage modifier is probably a little too low, but it does have 5 uses, so it's good, actually. Kitone as well. I don't think that there's anything outstanding here. I think she just got a really solid EX. Like I said, I don't think that this is going to be like game breaking. I don't think it's going to make her meta by any standards, but I do think it makes her more competitive, and that's really what EXs should be doing. Not breaking the game, but just making that unit feel, a little more on par with what is currently in the game. So Kitone, I'm going to give her a big recommendation. How much of a recommendation? That's how much of a recommendation. I'm actually just going to EX her right now. Little Leela to me is the all-star of this group of 3. Just because she is such a low cost, and I think you can get some really good value out of her. And she kind of is just like a cheap version of Mua, who just came out. Mua is better, but in a game where, it is feeling more expensive lately, nice to get something for a discount. And last but certainly not least, is big boy Muraga. Moraga has entered the JP side of the game. He can be gotten from the selection quest as well as all of his shards. There's no time limit that we are currently aware of. Before I get in trouble, you did have a time limit eventually. I didn't know at this point. But we're going to take a better look at exactly what he looks like for the sake of this video. And then we're going to close out this review just by talking about him. All right, so here he is, Muraga. And this is a example of I would say a pretty strong build of him. So first of all, does have a pretty nice piece of armor that's giving him 20 defense, so do keep that in mind. He also has this that's less defense, but is still providing him stats. He does have his TMR weapon, and this is a heck of an axe. 32 HP, but 203 attack. Not a bad weapon. Not a bad weapon at all. So yeah, quite like that. So let's talk a little bit. So main job is Barbarian King. Secondary job is Paladin. Third job is Ninja. Pretty good mix. You have defensive and you have movement and speed. And yes, that is basically it. Oh, I should also say that his axe does have a skill on it that grants him an initial AP of 25 for himself, which is all in all not bad by any standard. Not amazing, but again, it is a free, essentially a free unit. All right, taking a look at his support, he only has 4 support skills: HP up and decrease evasion rate. He has a defense and HP up for himself ability. He has ninjas, agility, and luck up ability. And last but not least, he has movement and jump up. So he has the good ninja skills for sure, and he has some good defensive and HP stuff as well. If you want to build him to be just like really high HP, you can do that. If you want him to have some pretty decent mobility and agility, you can do that as well. This current build that we are looking at right here, HP and defense passive, as well as the HP passive. So he has about an 82 agility without actually running the ninja passive, which is pretty good. Taking a look at his move and jump, I feel like that's going to be one of the ones you want to run, probably, unless the terrain is more friendly, in which case then you probably just want to run the agility one. Counters, nothing really special. He has his main one, has a chance to counter all damage and increases attack by 30% for 3 turns for himself. That's his unique job. He also has a chance to counter and reduce the damage taken from Paladin, and he has a chance to counter all damage with a poison from the ninja class. So out of the 3 of them, I probably like his own ability just because a 30% strength boost for 3 turns is pretty nice. But if you're looking for him to be like a brawler, like a big old bruiser, definitely the Paladin one fits very, very nicely. Taking a look at what he has for his skills, he has some ranged abilities, not a ton, but he definitely has some. His main ability is a break physical barrier for target and also 121% modifier. He can increase his defense and spirit on his main job by 15 for each, and increase defense penetration by 20 for 3 turns. All of those are 3-turn buffs, and he decreases the healing power for himself for 3 turns. So he makes himself more tanky, but he does end up and more defense penetration, but he can't heal as well. That also gets a upgrade too, and just an extra use, but that's fine because that ability is pretty good. He also has an ability that damages all the targets around him in the 8 squares surrounding him. That does 165%, but it also has ability cancellation on as well, and decreases magic by 43% for 3 turns. So, yeah, nice. He does have a ranged ability that has 165% modifier that increases his human killer for 30 turns by 30, which is a fair bit. And given that we still have mostly human enemies in the game, yikes. Increased slash penetration, resistance penetration for himself, deals 200%, but this one is directly up close, and a 25% chance to inflict slow on the enemy for 3 turns. That one also should be noted that it gets upgraded. Just taking a look at what the difference, bit of an AP cost reduction on it, goes from 28 to 22. That's about the only difference I can see on it, and that's a pretty minor upgrade. And his big ability, which has some range directly in front of him, 165% modifier, piercing damage, and a 25% chance to stun the target. So he actually has a lot of abilities. Even in his main job, he has, this is not even the sub part of his main job, he has a lot of abilities that are pretty darn dangerous, especially if he gets close, because his modifiers are still pretty strong. He can potentially, if you hit him, it just makes him angrier. And he can increase human killer / resistance penetration. He can stun, slow. He's actually really solid unit by just looking at his main job. The sub part of his job, he can absorb HP with one of his attacks, which is an interesting little ability. Not only that, but I do believe it hits the 3 directly in front of him, so it could absorb a good amount of HP, and it has 121% modifier on it. He can also consume 15% of his own HP to increase debuff resistance by 100 for 3 turns for himself, and but it does have a 25% chance of inflicting berserk on him for 3 turns. So it it could be kind of interesting to just run him as a Berserk Maniac, put the good range movements on him, just like go in and start smashing and slashing, but probably not. The main reason that is because Paladin has some good stuff. It has the stun ability, it has restore HP to self, it has increase defense and spirit ability, the sentinel ability, it has he has a tracked blade too, which is kind of interesting since he does have some basic tanky abilities in both of his main, like he could run Paladin and his main job and have 2 increased defense and spirit abilities. That's pretty interesting. He has, of course, the restore HP for himself and allies, and he has guts as well, the 200% chance to ignore fatal damage for himself. In Ninja, he has decreased chance to be targeted, damage, move the target panel, and 50% chance to inflict poison for 3 turns to targets, damage, critical chance on damage, and accuracy. So overall, Moraga is a heck of a character because his kit works really well in 2 directions. You can actually make him kind of a ninja, make him a little more evadey and running quick to the enemy, but still do a lot of damage and barely get a lot of human killer on him as well. Or you can make him a pretty darn tanky unit. Like, you can make him either a hate generator or a hate ignorer, and both are really kind of seemingly good options because his main job is just really, really solid. I've said this before, never underestimate a unit that gets a brand new main job because they usually end up with something looking like this, which is much more focused, much more thought out, and not just the same thing that we've seen before. So yeah, Muraga I actually am going to give probably a B plus, A minus, just because I can see a lot of potential really good. I can see him being a scary unit to go up against in a lot of stuff. Just he really could pair just insanely well with Odin. He could pair insanely well with a Slash team, and there are a lot of good Slash teams out there right now. A lot of support for Slash. So yeah, I'm going to give him a really high recommendation. You might just want to start building your lower cost Earth units so that you can end up getting Muraga and getting him maxed, because he is a shockingly good character. But he doesn't break a ton of new ground. See, I got an Earth element joke in there. Never underestimate me. All right, so that's a look at all of the units. Overall, I think that this is a really good batch. I think that Kitone, I think that Muraga are both really good units with their EXs. I think that Leela is probably the best just because I can see some real value against other mage teams. And Meri just falls a little bit short, but that kind of feels the MR way lately. EXs. Minus Old Man Archer. So anyway, that's all for this video. I'm just going to tap out because this is a 23-minute long video, and I think I've said enough. So thanks for watching. Take care, and see you next time.